All right. Now, over the weekend, nonetheless, for those of us who, it was a mistake. I stayed up late on Saturday night and thought, oh, I'll watch the Perth test. This could be quite interesting. And I don't know what it was ruined by. Was it ruined by the ref? Was it ruined by the skills on display? Not really. Was it ruined by the weather? Oh, certainly the second half was. And I watched a relatively nondescript game of rugby, at least. The All Blacks triumphed. They have not only retained the Bledisloe Cup, but I think for the 11th game in a row. The Wallabies didn't, well, they looked like winning until they managed to get into all sorts of troubles with the referee, and that was the end of them. But New Zealand finished with a 4-2 record. We finished on the same number of points as South Africa in the Rugby Championship, but the South Africans won by dint of having a much better points differential, in good part, I have to say, created by their win over New Zealand at Wellington a couple of weeks back. Nonetheless, despite that, they finished, well, in the old-fashioned way, first equal, as I said. They had a 4-2 record. They had losses to Argentina and, of course, that loss to South Africa. But they won 4 other tests, including a test victory over South Africa and twice over the Wallabies, who are a lot stronger this year than they have been for a while. And they head off later on, I think in a month or so, on an epic northern tour. Epic in the sense that they have the chance to recreate some history. They are playing the 4 home unions in what is known as the Grand Slam Tour. They're not playing France, but they are playing England, Wales, Scotland and Ireland. 2 of those will be very hard, 2 of those presumably not quite. But nonetheless, that's a challenge all of its own. And then, as I understand, the Rugby Championship's being suspended for a year while New Zealand goes on a tour of South Africa. Somebody who would know intimately what it's like to tour South Africa, having taken the All Blacks there himself, and with a very fine and sage eye over all things rugby, Laurie Mains is with us, and he joins us now. Laurie, great to have you on the show again. Welcome to the platform.
Good morning, Michael. How are you?
I'm very well, my friend. Listen, mate, first of all, you went to South Africa, as we know, with the World Cup 95 All Blacks team. You know what it's like to tour that particular place yourself, because you went there as a player, I think, in 1976 from memory. That's right, isn't it? 76?
Correct. Yep.
The tour that the All Blacks will take will substitute the Rugby Championship. Do you understand the rationale of that? Could we not have had both?
Well, I don't know. If we had had both, the tour to South Africa would be a limited number of games.
Right.
Because the players, you know, the way rugby is today, like we used to go on 23-match, 28-match tours. I think when we toured South Africa in 76, it was something like 25 matches. Well, if you put rugby teams, international rugby teams, through that now after playing, you know, 5 or 6 matches in a regional competition, they would be absolutely, you know, blown out. Rugby is much more physical, and you've got to control the number of games. Now, here's what I think. The only advantage in this for New Zealand rugby is if the following year, or in the next couple of years, South Africa are going to do a tour of New Zealand. Then there's a bit of payback. And there's an awful lot of money, like if you had the Springboks playing the Crusaders, for example, or coming down to play Otago, the grounds would be sold out. So it'd be a financial bonanza. That's about the only plus I can see to it.
So, given the Rugby Championship's not going to take place next year, that's 3 home tests that they're not going to be playing. I guess they'll still play the Wallabies home and away because that's just the nature of the beast. Is there the South African...
And we'll have... Yeah, we'll have 3 tests against South... Oh, no, we're going there. They're not coming
Going
here.
there, that's right, yeah. So I'm just saying, that's not going to make us too much money, I wouldn't anticipate, although it'll be an eagerly anticipated tour. Listen, the difference is, though, Laurie, you went in 1976. We had great hopes of perhaps taking the series, 1970 even more, just prior to those away tours. Is New Zealand rugby in a position, do you think, that we can go to South Africa and reasonably expect to win a Test series?
Very tough. But you remember a couple of years ago we did win a Test match at Johannesburg, and Australia won a Test match, I think it was at Johannesburg this year. So they can be beaten at home, but it's pretty tough. I mean, we toured there the first year I had the All Blacks, 92. We toured there. We played 5 games and managed to win the single test that we played. So, yes, it is possible.
Well, you've got a much more optimistic than I am, because this South African team, the difference in 92 and now, obviously, is they were just coming back into international competition. This team, my gosh, Laurie, they're pretty strong, aren't they?
They are, but like at half-time in that second test, there was nothing in it. It was a pretty equal game.
Yes, it was.
And that was with what I think are not very well thought out, selected All Black team. For example, the biggest player in the All Blacks is Fabian Holland. Now, he was put on the bench. Tupu Vai, who had been an outstanding success against France and Argentina as a blindside flanker, was for some unknown reason put into lock, and marking men that are much bigger and stronger than he is. That All Black team has been best this year when he's been on the blindside flank, and Holland in lock. So, and then it sort of fell apart after half time. There's all sorts of reasons for that. But having said, and maybe the major one, here's what got me. We couldn't win our own lineouts because Fabian Holland wasn't there. We even got pushed back in our scrums, and that was a mental lapse, not a physical lapse. They're not a stronger scrum than the All Blacks, so it's a mental lapse. And we couldn't take high kicks. Now, it's really tough for Damien McKenzie, who's a pretty small man, playing at fullback and trying to take those high kicks against wings that are probably 3 or 4 inches taller than him, and Springboks that are chasing it. That was the reason our second half fell apart. Scrums, lineouts, and the inability to gather their high kicks. They were good ones, don't get me wrong, but to gather their high kicks and retain the ball. So,
Laurie, the big change since big change that you were coached
Sorry.
since you were coaching the All Blacks, though, is tactics, and you've commented yourself on the difference between when you were playing, which was the physicality of the game. But the physicality of the game seems to be based upon having 8 substitutes that you can bring on at any time. In your days, you could only bring on somebody, I think, if they were injured, and you could make an injury replacement. But now the game means that I can now only play 40 minutes or 45 minutes, particularly if I'm a big grunter, which means I can get bigger because I don't need to last an entire game. Has that changed the game for the better, do you think?